Our next inductee is Mark Bones Boucier. Born in 1960 and raised in Southington, Connecticut, Mark Bones Boucier became enamored with racing at an early age. Luckily, his mother Lynn had attended races at the Waterford Speed Bowl while in nursing school and had at least a passing interest in the sport, as did his two siblings. Yet, no single member of his family was quite as consumed with racing as Bones was. As a young man, he was afflicted with asthma, and it was serious enough that sometimes his mother would be prepared to inject him with adrenaline when he was in the throes of a major attack. That alone made it difficult for him to keep weight on, and in fact, he was so skinny that a fifth grade teacher, jokingly, hung a series of nicknames on his student, and before long, the nickname Bones just stuck for good. He couldn't stand missing a single race, and even though his mother couldn't or wasn't interested in going every week, he was bound and determined to get to the track. Sometimes he told his mom he was going with a friend, when in truth, he simply made his way to the main thoroughfare and stuck out his thumb. At times, he would be at the racetrack all alone, and he was spotted by the wife of successful racer Ronnie Wyckoff, the woman who Bones calls a nice, sociable lady. She would often picking up when he was hitchhiking, and at other times, she just swung by his house and offered him a lift. There was one other thing about Bones that set him apart from his peers. By the time he was 10, he loved to read the newspaper, and he quickly discerned that various writers, be they from the world of politics or sports, had very unique and discernible styles. On top of that, and unusual for one his age, he actually loved to write. By the time he was 15, he was traveling to the famed Stafford Speedway with talented photographer Mike Atascavage, who was a regular contributor to major racing publications. Bones would often staff the photo booth for Mike, at least until the modifieds hit the track, and then it was right back to the stands. Mike knew that the youngster was attentive and had a love of racing history. It was for that reason that Bones got his first real break. Atascavage was set to get married, and he needed someone to write his next 3 columns for the daily paper in Meriden. If Bones needed encouragement, he got it. Mike told him it was clear he had all the necessary information right at his disposal. And if the paper felt that the work demanded a rewrite, they would manage it. To no one's surprise, no changes were made, and he was published under the name Mark Boucier. The next phase of his career came with the Syracuse-based Gator Racing News. The paper was interested in branching out from the traditional base and covering action in New England. They approached Atascavage about doing some writing, but he informed him he was far too busy for the task. However, he said he knew the right guy to get the job done. Still shy of his driver's license, at an age where everyone's still dependent on a typewriter and whiteout, and maybe the mail to get your column, he prepared his first piece for Gator. Always helpful, Atascavage came by the house, read the work, and said there was one major mistake. There was no byline. Mike grabbed a pen and wrote Bones Boucier at the top of the page, and Bones it would be. The quality of his work was turning heads. The editor of the popular publication Speedway Scene, Val LeSueur, soon contacted him. Bones described Val as a gruff guy who kept saying, "Come write for me," and was consistently pursuing him. Bones first wrote for Val in the spring of 1979. By August 1979, he joined the staff in northeastern Massachusetts. Val ran the paper out of his basement. He offered Bones a place to stay in his large house, and it was perfect. He was 18, no bills to speak of, and he was soon traveling to the major races on LeSueur's dime. He wasn't getting rich, but he was having the time of his life. Amazingly, when he reached the age of 19, he was the managing editor of Speedway Scene. It's not at all surprising that National Sprint Car Hall of Fame member Dick Berggren would recruit Boucier to contribute to his popular publications. Many sprint car fans first became a Bones when he began writing regularly for Open Wheel magazine beginning in 1988. Others undoubtedly recognized his byline from work in stock car racing and Speedway Illustrated. And in those roles, he always had a soft spot for open wheel racers and always bolstered the profiles of those from the sprint car ranks. This is the story, by the way, with no immediate end in sight. He has become one of the most decorated scribes of his age. He's a two-time winner of the Miller Racing Award of Excellence, one of motorsports journalism's most coveted annual prizes, and a past recipient of the Eastern Motor Press Association's Frank Blanc Memorial Award for outstanding contributions to the field. It is fortuitous for all of us that he had an interest in expanding his coverage of open wheel racing and racing in the Midwest. He traveled extensively but reasoned that his time and expenses could be reduced if he moved to either Charlotte or Indianapolis. He realized that while there were many race shops in Charlotte, there was a dearth of annual weekly racing. He developed a love for the Indianapolis 500 in 1997, and he moved to the Circle City and became a beloved member of a tight racing community. Along with the magazine stories and columns, his voluminous resume is absolutely mind-boggling. Some of his books include Racing Safely, Living Dangerously, The Hard Life and Fast Times of a Motorsports Legend, the autobiography of Bill Simpson, Racing Through Fire with Bill Simpson, a sequel, True Speed, My Racing Life with Tony Stewart. As a matter of fact, I am Parnelli Jones with Parnelli Jones, The People's Champ, A Racing Life with Dave Darland, Wicked Fast, Racing Through Life with Bentley Warren with Bentley, Foyt Andretti Petty, America's Racing Trinity, Junior Achievement, Ray Kurtz, Plastic Express, and A Legacy of Winning, The Old Master, the autobiography of injured wizard Ed Pink, and one of his most recent works is the Tour de Force 50 Years of Winning, the Sammy Swindell story, along with Bob Mays. Other important works include Hot Shoe with Gary Ballou, Sea to Shining Sea, Racing from the Wild West to Daytona, the autobiography of West Coast icon Ken Clapp, a current work on Mark Martin that he's working on right now, a memoir on Jim Voiles, a very outstanding and well-known attorney in Indianapolis who has been deeply involved in racing. In fact, his wife is Johnny Parsons, the 1950 Indianapolis 500's daughter. Bugsy with the recently departed Bug Stevens, Richie about Richie Evans, Steady Eddie about Ed Flimke, The Kid from Fitchburg about Ron Bouchard, and Utica Rome, the home of heroes. That's extensive. The works are there for all to see. But to me, the true greatness of this man is the approach he has taken in all of his work. He cares deeply for the sport and the participants, and it shows. He gets well beyond the wins and losses by revealing the true essence of his subjects. They become not one-dimensional cartoon characters, but real people just like you and me. He is unfailingly positive, and he works hard to promote the sport, not denigrate it. That said, he is also not afraid to offer an opinion or a serious critique of a situation that is worthy of scrutiny. Yet, there has been a difference. He is never belittling or biting. He never attempts to embarrass anyone or assail their character. That's not his style. He is honest, ethical, and sincere. This is a man I admire, and I would challenge everyone who is beginning their career in some form of media to emulate this man. He's not one, and so many should not be one, who attempts to crave the attention that should be reserved for the subject. In terms of American motorsports journalist, he is without question among the finest of our time. He has befriended and helped the career of so many in the sprint car world and others, and he did so by gaining their time, their trust, and their respect. That's the measure of greatness. That's why today we honor a man who is an absolute credit to his profession. Now, I have one more story. This is one reason I just enjoy this man so much, and he probably knows this. Almost by accident, I stand by this guy before the Indianapolis 500 nearly every year. I don't know how many years in a row we've done it. And we're both standing on the outside as the beginning of the opening ceremonies begin. I don't have to look at him. I know he's crying, and I'm crying. And why? Because he cares. Isn't that great? Isn't that what it's about? That's why that's a Hall of Famer. Bones Boucier.
Make me cry right here.
It's okay to cry. What a ride.
I see some of these tough guys start to break up a little, and it makes you do it. And the Indy 500 every year does that to all of us. I think you hear back home again in Indiana. You know, I'm a kid from Connecticut, but I've been hearing it my whole life. And you know, we're up there talking, and then they start that one song, and it's all over. It's waterworks time.
It's waterworks time. You know, by the way, before we get too heavy here, Bones is the author of maybe the greatest call I ever got in my life. Bones had a Christmas party one year in Indianapolis, and he called me in my office like on Tuesday, and he says, "Pat, it's Bones." He says, "Do I owe you an apology for anything?" I said, "Nah." I said, "You danced really close with my wife, but she's a big girl, can handle it." Which I appreciated. That was a fun time.
It was a rough party. I don't think I never had another one. They wouldn't let me have another one.
Well, Kevin Eckert stole the keg.
Kevin Eckert brought home the keg. That was the party. It was the party was on a Friday night. He stole the keg that I was supposed to return. He had a college football party on Saturday, an NFL party on Sunday, and a Monday night football party with our beer. So that.
And then Colgin told you where you could pick it up.
Yeah, he called me and said, "You want your keg back? Come get it." So.
That's the essence of the guy. Yeah. But what a ride. I mean, the story of and first of all, you know, you figured out pretty quickly you love to write.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably like a driver doesn't know why he loves to drive, or a mechanic why he loves to mechanic. It just, for some reason, I used to read the newspaper, like you said, and I liked the fact that different guys had different styles, and I thought there was something to that. And I liked racing, as I was completely consumed by it. So when it was time to figure out what to do, I just sort of combined the two, and never really had to have a real job for very long after that.
But what you are, and I know Dave and I have talked about this, when you're involved in a project, you're dedicated to it. I know that sometimes you go to the racetrack, when that deadline's there, you're nose down.
I am, you know, it always makes me laugh that people make fun of guys like Sammy Swindell, or, you know, guys that are all business and don't talk a lot at the races. And my wife Dory will tell you that when I'm home and it's deadline time, don't talk. You know, I might not want to eat. Very short conversations, because that's what it is. It's all work, 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 and it's a labor of love. I mean, as much as it is work, you'd rather be doing that than something else. So I do get pretty intense about it.
What I've always liked about your work, Bones, is that, you know, people get pigeonholed. They get, I'm a fan of this, I'm a fan of this, I'm a fan of this, I'm a fan of this. You're a fan of racing. And you're a fan of racing people and racing drivers and the unique characters and the people that make this tick. There are stories everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanics have stories, drivers have stories, drivers' wives, team owners. I mean, there's just so much out there, and what I always say when it's time to figure out a new book project is you have to you want to write about somebody who's interesting, because sometimes books will take a year or 2 years, sometimes 3 years, and you don't want to be living in the mind of somebody that doesn't interest you. You know, you want to get up every day and attack it. And I've been fortunate. You know, you get people like a Bill Simpson or, you know, Bentley Warren. Those are fun people to be around. So that's who I try to zero in on.
That's a different time. I've told the story many times, but Speed Sport gave me an assignment to do a driver on a 16-year-old. And this is a really good 16, nice person. I'm not denigrating, but they told me, I've been dreaming of doing this my whole life. And I'm going, 16, dreaming it your whole life.
Yeah. It's like a famous driver that we both know, that I did a book with and you've known for a million years, Tony Stewart. His third year at Indy, when he dropped out, I'm going to swear here, but he said, you know, every time I come here, this place shits on me. Yeah. And Tony, this is the third time. You know, there's guys like Gary Bettenhausen who were, you know, came there for years and years and never really, never won it. So it consumes people.
You've had people, all of us, I think Ricky said it, and a couple of the drivers said it. No matter what path you take in this sport, I don't care what it is. Whether you're a mechanic, you're a driver, you're an owner, you're an official, you own a series, whatever. There are people that came before, there's people that help you, there are people that just gave you the right opportunity at the right time. And even in your bio, we've ticked off several people who believed in Bones and believed that you had what it took and were willing to help you do that, you know, not just hold it for themselves, but to reach out to you.
Yeah, I always got a lot of leeway. I mean, you know, from Dick Bergeron or any of those people. Lou Boyd and Kerry Stratton from Coastal 181 are here. You know, they published a lot of the books I've done, and they give me pretty good rein too. So it's nice to have people that believe in you, and you try to work hard in return, and you know, show that their faith was justified.
As a good writer, as I looked at it, looks to me like you have a notebook, Bones.
I do. First off, I want to congratulate everybody that's in the Hall of Fame or going in today. And I guess one perk of growing old is that I've seen a lot of these guys almost their whole career. You know, I mean, Tracy Hines, there was a time when, whether it was midgets, sprints, Silver Crown, dirt, pavement, I mean, he was absolutely as good as it got. And to watch a lot of that was really cool. John Stambro, to see what he did in Friday, Saturday, Sunday night racing in Indiana, I think of that Foxco car always winning the races. So that was cool. Paul McMahon, you know, for a guy to question whether or not he belonged in this Hall of Fame, dude, I mean, yeah, I guess, right? You've done it and have been doing it for years. Ricky and Deuce, I mean, to be around those, to see those guys wrench so many cars to victory was just amazing. And the Robbins family, let me get choked up here. I mean, I think all of us stand on the shoulders of those who come before us, and you know, a lot of people in this room stand on the Roy Robbins' shoulders, and that's just cool that they're here too. And if I could, I wanted to mention a couple of people. There are, this Hall of Fame has honored a lot of media people over the years, but I wanted to mention 4, if I could. Well, 6, because you and Dave, obviously. But let me go here. John Sawyer, you know, a great writer who was writing an open wheel from the very beginning of that magazine. And I think he introduced a lot of people to the romance of the road, you know, that it wasn't always easy, but it was a life to appreciate, to go up and down the road. And he introduced so many people across the country to Jan Opperman and Bubby Jones and Gary Patterson and people like that. And you never forget a guy like that. Chris Economaki, I think, was the spiritual father to all of us who do this, but to all of us who love racing as well. Joe Scalzo, I think Joe could turn a phrase better than anybody who's ever done this. And if you're a writer, you'll understand what I mean when I say, you'd read a Scalzo story and it would be so good you'd be mad at him. You know, you'd be like, how the hell does that guy do that? And then the last guy is Dick Bergeron. You know, when Dick launched Open Wheel magazine in 1980, it absolutely electrified sprint car racing. It was a one-shot deal at first, then a quarterly, bi-monthly, and when it came to be a monthly, all of a sudden you could go to your local pharmacy or newsstand and see a story about Jimmy Sills in a national magazine, Wolfgang, you know, Steve Kinzer, Sammy, Mechanics. First time I ever saw Deuce's name was in Open Wheel. Ronnie Shaver's name. All those guys got to be sort of put on Broadway by that magazine. And when it got sold out from under Dick, it kind of went downhill and eventually fizzled. But I don't think it should ever be forgotten what that magazine was in its prime.
No doubt about it. To be in that group with them now must feel awfully good.
Oh yeah, it's amazing that. It's hard to be up here talking because I'm more used to writing. I would have just sent a video like Bill Holder if I knew if I knew that was possible. But I'm honored to be here. It's one of the biggest things that ever happened to me.
No, Dory said it was time for you to get out of the house and out of your room and out of seclusion and maybe be a little fun.
I take her to all the nicest places.
You do. She's pampered.
She's had a lot of racetrack hot dogs and good barbecue here, and we'll eat something at the races tonight.
This guy's been a real jewel, ladies and gentlemen. How about it for Bones? That's all you need to say. Bones. Get over there.